Okay, so I'm probably about to make a lot of enemies with this, and a lot of people are probably going to be really mad at me, but you know what? We live and we learn, so let's get into it. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of that chaos happening. Okay, so I had a lot of fun for the first 2 months of this game. I thought the models and animations were really cool, especially the jump scares.
No! No! You freaking what?
Then came the new characters and skins, and it really kept me going during the days of online school. I remember waking up excited almost every day just to see if Illumix would have posted a new character that they were going to be adding to the roster soon, and what new characterizations they were going to give the animatronics. Though of course I wasn't the biggest fan of all of them.
Why ever is this creature hiding from little old me?
However, one of my favorite things to come out of this game was one of these voice lines from Springtrap.
Got you!
In regards to the plot, this game also gave us a lot of the emails surrounding Vanessa, hinting towards her relationship with Glitchtrap, building up towards Security Breach, and even giving us some cool tidbits about the employees of the subcontractor company that Fazbear Entertainment was working with. Special Delivery was overall a special time in the beginning, although it kinda went downhill around like late 2020 or early 2021. They stopped updating the game and went silent until they announced that they were shutting it down. Also, the in-game prices for accessories and stuff were like very steep, so I really don't blame people for being hard on this game. Although the full game has yet to be released, at the time of this recording anyway, I'm including FNAF in this tier list. Despite the low placement of laps, I really liked what we got so far. Having an official spin-off game that's basically just Mario Kart FNAF Edition is a very cool idea to me. It's just that the heavy amount of bugs and difficulties sort of drags it down by a lot. Like when I first played the demo, I remember I felt as if it felt as if they had just started developing it like only 2 months prior. I'm sure there are other videos talking about the technical issues of laps that are more qualified than I am to speak on this, but as it stands, as much as I really like this game so far, it didn't make too much an impact on me personally. When the full game eventually comes out, I'm hoping that if the game can't have online multiplayer, it can at least have its own story, kind of similarly like FNAF World, to keep people interested in the game after it comes out. Also, the floating animatronic is kinda cool, but that desperately needs to get fleshed out more because I think it's a very weird little creature. I have very fond memories of Ultimate Custom Night. When I first got back into FNAF, it was the most recent official game that had come out. At first, I was too scared to the point where I struggled to even finish a single night. In fact, when I knew I was going to be jump scared, I would just close the computer mid-night because I just did not want to face the jump scares. But as I got used to it, I started playing through and beating the challenges, getting all the way up to Chaos because, well, as for the rest of the challenges, I'm just not that good at multitasking. Overall, I think that's the reason why I'm placing UCN in this spot. I know it's mostly just a skill issue on my end, but I find this game just too overwhelming to play for so long. The voice lines, in my opinion, are a highlight of this game. From silly to serious, they're a staple of how much cooler a lot of the animatronics are when they talk, and let us get a glimpse of who they are as characters.
Want to see the scooping room?
Arr, I came for ye booty. That be treasure, you know.
The plot of Golden Freddy torturing William because of their refusal to move on and because of their desire for revenge also makes for a good way of tying UCN to the main story. It's not just a big custom night to us as the players, but in universe, it's William being forced to go up against an eternal, never-ending battle against the monsters that he had a hand in making. Usually I associate Curse of Dreadbear with Help Wanted 1 as a whole package, but if I'm going to rank Ruin separate from Security Breach, I figured I might as well do the same with this one. Now, Curse of Dreadbear accomplishes what it set out to be. A treat for Halloween on what was the most recent official FNAF game at the time.
A fudge bar. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Teeth eat you. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. It's. Oh my god, it's a bonanza. What?
Considering that, before Help Wanted, the most that FNAF games had gotten for Halloween were some decorations in the offices, and then FNAF 4 and FNAF World's Halloween content updates, so it was a pretty big deal at the time. The new levels were really creative. We get to avoid the nightmare animatronics in the FNAF 4 hallways, go trick-or-treating with the FNAF 2 animatronics, build a mangle, assemble Dreadbear's brain, and avoid Grim Foxy in the corn maze.
Easy enough, I just gotta find myself a key.
Speaking of which, I do really like Dreadbear and Grim Foxy's designs, especially since they pair with Jacko, Bonnie, and Chica to make a complete set of the core 4 animatronics for Halloween. Although as neat as this DLC is, I just don't really click with it as much. Yeah, I don't really know how else to describe it. However, I will say that this DLC gave us the spooky introduction to Vanny, a character that I immediately grew attached to and still love to this day. So at the time of writing this, I've been experiencing a lot of brain rot for FNAF 2 again, thanks to the movie, Unwither Truth's reboot, and Rewritten 87. I adore this particular section of the franchise. I love all the designs, I love the secret minigames, and I love the potential plot of every single iteration FNAF 2 has, whether it be official or fan-made. Now this begs the question, why is FNAF 2 so low on the list? To sum it up, I just don't particularly enjoy playing the original FNAF 2 is all. The puppet hogs the cameras, and I find the time window the game gives you to put the mask on to be too unforgiving. That being said, I still love this game, and the recent attention it's gotten has enhanced my appreciation for it further, but the original gameplay holds it back from being any higher on my list.
What the heck? Tentacles! This isn't anime!
When Help Wanted 1 first came out, I was over the moon. Before the game released, I remember preparing for how I was going to play it for myself. I stood in the center of my room and I would just swing my head back and forth while interacting with imaginary controls like I was rehearsing for a role. Engaging with FNAF in VR was an absolute thrill. I had so much fun going through every level while being really scared and stressed out at the same time. It was a good first introduction for Steelwool's participation in the franchise, and it spawned some pretty dark moments, like Glitch Trap, whose design I love so much. He just looks amazing. Now, despite my appreciation for Help Wanted, I have to say that when it first came out, the visuals were all kind of rough. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but like there was something about the visuals of the animatronics that looked a little like they were made of clay. I also wish they had made some more unique levels along with remaking the first 4 games. That's why I love the vent repair and parts and service levels so much. And speaking of the levels, my least favorite ones were the dark rooms. Whether or not I don't like them because they're scary or too hard, I will leave to you to interpret. Oh, and speaking of Help Wanted, I'm really looking forward to Help Wanted Plus. If you know what Help Wanted Plus is, comment how excited you are down below. Security Breach. There is so much I could say about Security Breach, but for all our sakes, I'm going to keep this brief. I'll be honest, although I was sad about how the game was handled, I can still look at Security Breach a little fondly. It did give us some genuinely good things here and there. We have our beloved Glamrocks, the daycare attendant, and the Pizzaplex. Security Breach undeniably brought in so many new fans to this franchise. And in fact, I'd say this game heralded a second wave of intense popularity for FNAF, despite it messing a lot of things up in the long run. And despite that I do like things from this game, whenever I replay it, I just get kind of bored after I get past the Endo warehouse. I will forever love the potential that Security Breach had, and for this, it will live on in my heart. FNAF World has gone from one of the most despised to one of the most beloved entries in this entire series. It's full of charm, whimsy, and chaos, a staple of the more lighthearted parts of this franchise. That being said, RPG games just aren't my thing. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't dislike FNAF World in any way. It's awesome. I just have a hard time getting into this entry specifically. For how cool it is, I figured I should at least have it in the top 10. Although FNAF 3 doesn't have the most riveting gameplay, I think it's a pretty solid battle between yourself and Springtrap. He's difficult to find as he hides in the shadows. Things are made more challenging with the phantoms throwing you off at every turn, therefore buying Springtrap more time to reach you. I like how he makes himself scarce in the shadows, which shows that he has an unnerving amount of intelligence for an animatronic. Then comes the reveal at the end of the game that he's the killer who started it all. Springtrap is really scary. Like, to this day, I still genuinely have some trouble looking him in the eye because he just makes me that uncomfortable. Like, that's an actual monster right there. And you know what? I like the phantoms. I really do. I really think a lot of people underestimate the phantoms. I do understand why they're so overlooked. They appear in a small role in one game and never show up again. But I really like their ghostly appearances. I think it adds to the paranormal vibes, and their burned appearances are very creepy. I think the big issue is that they're just a little too green, and the burn marks are designed in a way that led to everyone making the watermelon jokes. I do wish the horror attraction was fleshed out a little more as a building. Well, the same can be said for all of the first 6 locations, honestly. I think it looks nice, although it might have benefited from being a little bigger or having more than just decorated hallways. But that's just more of a nitpick for me personally.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through.
To this day, I've never personally played FNAF 4 because I just can't handle the pressure. Multitasking in the classic FNAF games is hard enough, but with the nightmares and their loud roars and the pitch black darkness, I can't do it. I do love the premise of this game so much though. I mean, when I was a kid watching FNAF, the number one thing on my mind at night was, what if they're in my house or in my bedroom? FNAF 4 plays on exactly that, and it's powerful. No matter who it is we're playing as, we're still a child alone in a bedroom completely surrounded. There are monsters waiting for you in the hallways outside, the closet, under your bed, all the 9 yards are covered, and there's still nothing else to do but fight back until the sun comes up. Even though the plot has been rearranged this way and that over the years, and I share a lot of people's frustrations with it, I will always dig the tragic story of the crying child. A lonely boy who had almost nobody on his side, nobody who understood him, and the one character who did wasn't even a true friend to him. Then it all ends with his despairing demise at the hands of the thing he feared the most, from the one who was really supposed to be looking out for him. Also, the nightmare designs are cool. Safe to say I'd pass out if I ever woke up in the middle of the night and saw these things staring back at me. This is another game I can't replay because of stress, although I hold most of FNAF 6 in high regard. I love the concept of the scrap animatronics sneaking around the shadows in the free world at night. I know their designs are not flawless, Scraptrap especially, but I find Baby, Lefty, and even Molten Freddy to be really spooky, especially in the dim, dingy lighting of the salvage sections. And I really love all the other animatronic designs as well, the rock stars being my favorites. And I love decorating the pizzeria too. I'd love for there to be an official game where we set up and decorate Fazbear Entertainment locations across the timeline. And of course, I'm sure Henry's monologues need no mention. That being said, for me personally, there's just too much that was left unexplored for me to think any higher of this game currently. The jump scares are kinda weak, Michael says nothing, William doesn't really contribute as much as he should, Baby and the fun time splitting up was kept to just website source code. We never see the puppet itself other than that sliver of its arm inside of Lefty's arm. I love Pizza Sim, but I just think it's one of the more underutilized games. It could have benefited from some more development time, especially story-wise.
I'm an idiot!
You're an idiot.
Whoa, go, I got... Oh,
Help Wanted 2 is an easy high A tier for me. The only reason I wouldn't put it higher is because I do have a few wishes here and there. For example, there did not need to be 5 entire levels of Fizzy Faz. That was just absurd. Also, while I get that the plot this time around was more straightforward for the theorists to put together, I wish Help Wanted 2 had been more immersive plot-wise for a more regular player without having to read between the lines or connected back to prior knowledge all the time. That being said, I found the gameplay to be leagues above Help Wanted 1. They're not as scary, except for Sister Location, but they're a ton of fun to go back and replay. I love that Steelwool created a literal 3D version of the FNAF 6 restaurant when it was in its prime, and it becomes more decorated as we progress through the game. The visuals are much higher quality, the levels are more creative, and Princess Quest 4 might honestly be my favorite minigame in the entire franchise so far. Ruin is in my top 5 because I love it to pieces. Yes, the gameplay isn't all very tense, I'm aware. Frankly, I also wish it had more stakes. It was essentially just chilling and disabling nodes most of the time. But you know what? I love replaying this DLC regardless. I know what you might be thinking. How do you find Security Breach boring, but Ruin you can replay? I can't exactly explain it either, but what I can say is that I like the overall scarier tone of the whole DLC. I just prefer the art direction's handling in Ruin. The foreshadowing was handled pretty good as well. There was subtle buildup in the environments that were quietly warning you about looming dangers such as Monty jumping out at you, Freddy being headless, that Roxy and Cassie shared a special connection, and that it was going to lead to Cassie's subsequent betrayal of Roxy. And then there's the Mimic, the scary monster in the Sinkhole that's just been unleashed from its prison and is now on the loose. I understand that the Mimic could have been built up stronger in Ruin, but even with what we got, it was the most unsettled FNAF had me feeling in a long time. The revelation that Gregory was never there, the intense music while Roxy fought to buy Cassie time to escape, and then the final despairing moments of the elevator plummeting into the darkness with Cassie's scream. Sister Location is a very divisive game. The gameplay is weak and it introduced many aspects to the franchise that a lot of people didn't like. I have to say though, I absolutely adore Sister Location, and I wish the gameplay was better, but regardless, I love the characters, I love the designs, the aesthetics, and the way FNAF really shed its skin with this game. The series went from being scary because of grounded standards to embracing a dark, unsettling story with the animatronics as active characters themselves. The underground facility is dark and cold. It feels like a visual representation of William Afton's soul, which is fitting since all of these things are his creations. I love the plot surrounding the Funtime animatronics and how they're designed to serve the main villain, but even that's not enough to spare them from the harm he perpetuates. They're trapped in this foreboding place, shackled to their stages and tortured. They too have trauma and they want to escape, but they can't help the bloodlust that comes from their anger and programming to kill. Except for Baby, who's the smartest of them all. I don't want to drag this out for too long, but despite its heavy flaws, I love Sister Location too much to not include it in the top 5. As someone who used to not be interested in the original Into the Pit story, this entry really blew me away. While I guess it's not as replayable, Into the Pit is just so beautifully crafted on a number of levels. The art style and sound design is stellar, the gameplay is fun and tense, the story is good, this game is just an overall gem. Oswald and the rest of the human characters are really cool, though I kinda wish they had a little more to do. Although Jeff is definitely my favorite, I love Jeff. My favorite part might honestly be the collecting hats minigame. That one straight up feels like a love letter to the BB's Air Adventure game in FNAF 3. And Pit Trap was a really cool monster. He was scary to avoid, he was just scary in general with the creepy noises he made. The surrounding information and lore about the 1985 location, at least in this universe, was really welcome. FNAF could always use more world building, and this game did a pretty good job of delivering on that. I really hope that Mega Cat Studios will come back to make another FNAF game in the future. Trust me, I'll be waiting for that fetch game. Like everyone and their mother, I'm putting FNAF 1 in the top 5. I just think you can't really go wrong with FNAF 1 in terms of enjoyment. Aside from how this was the project that started it all, I personally just vibe with the first game a lot. I find it to be one of the creepier games, and to this day I still feel really uncomfortable looking at most of the renders in it. You go into this game thinking that the animatronics are moving around at night simply because they're just trying to kill everyone because it's a scary game. The simple stuff. But then the subtle signs around the game cue you in on what the circumstances actually are. And then you realize that these animatronics are actually haunted by the spirits of children who were murdered here a long time ago. It's a very unsettling way to deliver a stranger danger message to the audience, or even creating a new concept like the boogeyman. A story someone would tell children to scare them into behaving. Make good choices or else the man in the rabbit suit will take you away. I think FNAF 1 as a whole effectively delivers the vibe of a place of children's entertainment sitting inactive, or lost to time. The classic designs are very well balanced between being very cute and very creepy. They look mostly friendly in the light, but when they're half obscured in the shadows, they look monstrous. Although the gameplay does get a little repetitive, I have too much of a hard time not ranking FNAF 1 this high. It started the franchise off on a really strong note, and I think it's effectively scary. So if you haven't seen my videos talking about this game, I love Secret of the Mimic very, very much. Most of you may blame this on recency bias, but I promise it's a lot more than that. This entry is going to stay high on my list forever, even if the next big project is better than this. It might not be anything groundbreaking in the long run, but remember when I mentioned that Into the Pit has very good world building, and FNAF 1 delivers a vibe of a place of children's entertainment sitting inactive, rotting away? Secret of the Mimic combines both of these. Like, this is the most world building I think we've gotten in an official FNAF game, and the fact that not only does Murray's costume manor do a good job of paying homage to that vibe that FNAF 1 originally had, this place technically is a birthplace of establishments like the FNAF 1 restaurant. This game is so much of what I wanted from FNAF given to me on a silver platter. It's epic, the plot is more upfront, I like the gameplay, it's very creepy, and I've genuinely never had a better time engaging with an official FNAF game before this. It's just so eerie on so many levels. Whether it's standing outside the abandoned facility at night, or navigating the darkness with unsettling costumes, there is something to be said for how ghoulish the vibes of Secret of the Mimic are. Almost every costume design is unsettling, and the close encounters with the big threats of the game are not only scary, but they're very creatively executed. The environments and circumstances of the chases are unique to the characteristics of each threat, and they each have their own respective themes to enhance the experience more. This game may not be anything to write home about in terms of game design, or horror, or lore, and I accept that. But I believe Secret of the Mimic is quite terrifying and powerful in its own way. Even before this game came out, I was excited at the prospect of it. There's something I just find very unsettling about the idea of an already scary monster like the Mimic in a vintage abandoned costume workshop. And although this didn't come to pass, I think it would have been even scarier if we had encountered the Mimic at Fall Fest. Like, I can't stop thinking about wandering around a creepy old carnival at night all alone, surviving against these hideous mascots that are all being controlled by the Mimic in this horrifying jester costume. Come to think of it, both that and what we ended up getting are both things I would legitimately have nightmares over. In any case, I highly recommend watching my videos on it if you're curious to hear my in-depth thoughts. This was the entry that won me over to the Mimic entirely, and this is very much going to be in my top 3 FNAF projects for a very long time. And with that, this humble tier list has come to a close. Honestly, ranking FNAF games is kinda hard for me to do because every entry has something that I absolutely love, to a degree. I feel genuine warmth toward every entry in this series. So something like this is challenging, but for the sake of the video, it had to be done. Let me know if you feel the same, and in the future, I'll most likely do another video like this as an update, because, you know, I really like making tier lists. I think it's a lot of fun. Until then, thank you for listening, and I hope you know that Secret of the Mimic will probably stay in my top 3 spots for a very long time.